Thank you so much for being here with me for this talk.
Of course.
I just really appreciate it. And I just love your website so much. It's
Thank you.
incredible. And I took your 5-day confidence course.
Oh, good.
I signed up for that and got through all 5 days and just really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So it was just really thought provoking for me. Tell you is I also
Good.
saw a New York Post article saying that crime is apparently on the rise and women are stepping up their self-defense game, and that you can order a bodyguard on demand through an app. So I
No
wasn't
way.
sure if you'd heard about that.
No, I need to see that article.
Yeah, it's a
Wow.
personal security app for like 30-minute intervals or something. That is very interesting. Have you
Wow.
ever had a bodyguard?
Uh, well, yes and no. So, um, a couple of stories. Okay, one, I was a personal trainer, health coach to a Saudi billionaire, and I traveled around the world with him. So he had bodyguards only when we went to certain places. So for example, we were in Rio and Sao Paulo. He had bodyguards, not for me, but because there's lots of kidnappings there, ransoms and stuff like that. Nobody would get anything if they kidnapped me. So it was really about him, but I was there with him. And it just, to me, it felt silly again for me to be just walking and having like bodyguards behind me. It was a very strange feeling for me, but I didn't mind it, and they weren't terrible to look at either.
So, and I mean, so I will tell you my SVU story. Mariska Hargitay is famous for having been so affected by the details she would hear from survivors of sexual abuse and child abuse and domestic violence. So she started her foundation.
Yeah.
And she would just, because that was her character on that show, was she worked in the special victims unit.
Yep.
And so she was just so shaken by all the details she would hear from people. So one of my questions for you was going to be like, you must hear some stories. What is that like, and how do you like sort of protect yourself in a way from getting too involved or too emotional, yet staying a strong teacher?
For sure. I mean, I do. After every single self-defense class or workshop or anything that I've given in the past decade or more, women will come up to me afterwards and share their past stories of, I mean, stuff from, like I hate even saying normal, but like normal New York City life, being followed down the street one night, feeling unsafe, getting catcalled, etc. I mean, that's kind of almost accepted as normal, even though it shouldn't be, to, being held at gunpoint while they were traveling in Africa. This woman told me a crazy story like that, to sexual assault, date rape. I mean, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
The stories that I've heard, in fact, and then lately during COVID, it's funny you brought up that article that crime is up. I can feel that because I'm getting emails left and right from just people in my network, right? Whether it's through social media or they know me for a long time and know that I'm involved in self-defense. So I've gotten emails from women here in West Hollywood saying that they've been followed, talked to cops in the areas, that 10 other women have reported that they've been followed lately. My garage was broken into a few weeks ago while my husband and I were sleeping.
Wow.
Of an old connection of mine called me out of the blue, was like, can I talk to you? She's being stalked online because she's in the media. She's a reporter, and someone got her name and address and started following her and was like asking me for advice. I mean, that's some serious stuff. So what do I do to protect myself? It's a good question. I just feel like I have a strong base, a big container, if you will. And I feel like the container has expanded in the last few years, where I can just hold a lot of people's stuff and stories, and I don't let it get to, it doesn't like eat away at my heart. Of course, I feel for other people and I'm empathetic. but I don't let it like drag me down, because I know that the mission is bigger than that.
Right.
My mission is to empower women to feel more strong, safe, and confident from the streets to the boardroom, period. Before I even teach people physical self-defense, I'm teaching so many different lessons in mental and emotional self-defense, raising your awareness, setting boundaries, powerfully communicating, all these things that do build your confidence. Whether, again, you're on the street and there's a potential attacker, or you're actually sticking up for yourself in the boardroom, or, you know, asking for a raise or equal pay to your colleagues. Like, there's a lot of things we need our voice for powerfully these days.
Yeah, and in relationships as well, marriages, that's a big topic for a lot of people as well.
I bet.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
absolutely.
interesting. So I was going to ask you, so when you have a black belt in Hapkido, do you have to renew that, or do you have it forever? How does that work?
Yeah, you have it forever. I mean, martial arts is a way of life. I hate to sound so cheesy, but you know, you test through these different belt levels. So white belt, yellow, orange, blah, 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 however long it takes you to get to that black belt. Then from black belt, there's different levels. So you go second degree, third degree. Third degree is where I stopped testing. Fourth degree is master level in most schools. And I mean, people can keep going and going. Grandmaster, you're usually in your 70s, like it's your whole life, you know?
Right.
So it's pretty neat.
I was telling my son about you, and he's 11, and he wanted to ask what you teach people if somebody approaches them and they have a weapon. Can you answer that question? I'm sure you can.
Your son is very advanced. So that's usually the question I get at the end of a 2-hour seminar. And he's just going for it right away, isn't he?
He's so smart. Yeah, he's really good. I try to get some questions from him. Yeah.
Well, the answer is that there is no good answer, because if I were to tell somebody what to do when there's a weapon pointed in their face, that would not be very smart of me, because every situation is different. What I do recommend is training in not only self-defense, but like the mental part. There's a great book called The Gift of Fear by Gavin DeBecker. Have you heard of it?
No.
No, it's been around for a couple decades now, I think, and Oprah, you know, has had him on and talks about his book. Like, every woman should read this book. Really, what it does is remind you that your intuition knows best, and how our brains, you know, are always scanning and observing and collecting information that then give us a gut feeling, or the hair on our neck, or a visualization, or words that come to us, right? That's information that we've already gathered unconsciously. So really about tapping into your intuition. What's there in the moment? Can you get away safely? Can you talk to your attacker? Can you talk them out of what they're about to do? Most attackers with guns, they say won't use them, but you know, what's your gut telling you in the moment to do?
Also, in the health and wellness world, because you know, I think a lot of, especially new moms,
Yeah.
but many people go to their doctor and then they just blindly agree to their doctor. I think that's like a big thing. That's kind of, people are like, what? You know, now they're waking up to that. Oh, yeah, I should trust myself. I guess I don't need to only listen to doctor. I could also listen to myself. You know.
Oh, I can go on a whole tirade of that, because I work with teenagers as well, that are at treatment centers for anxiety, depression, eating disorders, you name it. So many of them come in on so many medications, and I'm just thinking like, okay, you need the stimulant to keep you focused during the day, but then you can't sleep at night. So then you need a downer to, like, you know, make you sleep, and all these things. Like, okay, so there's that. And then there's stuff like, I see the number of young girls I see that take birth control, for example, right? Why do you take birth control? Is it for the use of birth control? No, my doctor wanted to regulate my period, or because of my acne, or bad cramping. And I'm just like, really? Like, there's no thought process that goes before, like, let me take a look at my diet, lifestyle, activity, exercise. Like, none
People
of
are
that.
so separated. People are so separated from the core of existence.
It blows my mind.
Yeah.
And I've been doing it for so long and it still blows my mind.
So sad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if the period of time we're living through is like an opportunity for people somehow to wake up, and for people like us to pivot and readjust and help people in a new way. I mean, do you think that this could be an opportunity for you to like sort of transform and reinvent yourself and your
I,
company?
yeah, I do it all the
Yeah.
time. Every few years I reinvent myself. So when this pandemic came around, I was like, okay, just gotta pivot again. Like no
Right.
big deal. So
Yeah.
it didn't take me down. I actually am the latest pivot is that I'm helping health coaches and other small business owners get their businesses off the ground. And I love it. So I'm business coaching
Yeah.
technically. Um, and I mean, I've done it for 15 years. So it's not like I'm faking anything until I make it. Like I actually have done it. So it feels really good.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. That's really cool. I mean, what inspired you to get started on your path? What motivates you?
Oh gosh, so much motivates me, but the martial arts is what really started my path, and that was in New York. And the dojo started in Soho. Dojo started in Soho,
Yeah.
and uh, that first year, have you heard the story? I don't want
Well,
to.
I mean, I just read the 9/11 blog post. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah,
Yeah.
I was there as well, but
Right.
continue.
Okay. Essentially, the first year of my martial arts training was September 11th, and I was 3 blocks south of the World Trade Center when the first tower fell. I was thrown into a utility closet with a bunch of strangers, thought I was going to die, felt that paralyzing fear for the first time in my life, like super traumatic fear. And eventually that day, with the help of another stranger, got to the dojo, the martial arts school that I've been training at. And for the first time that day, obviously I felt safe and calmer, and got to see what was going on. That kind of became this metaphor for my life. I was bartending to pay the bills at night, and then all I wanted to do was go to that dojo and start feeling like stronger in my body, mentally more confident, spiritually more grounded. And I didn't say it then. Like I never used the words PTSD, the word or the acronym PTSD. I just never talked about it. I had survivor's guilt because so many people had died and lost loved ones that I felt guilty almost. So I didn't talk about it. And looking back now, I can say for certainty that the martial arts healed me from PTSD. Like getting into my body every single day, like I can feel it right now, putting that uniform on, sinking my toes into the mat, doing all the things, ending with meditation. Like nothing could have been better for me at the time. It was just perfect timing.
Yeah, incredible story.
So
And that blog post was just so beautiful.
thank
Really
you.
well written. You're a very good writer.
Thank you.
So you have a book upcoming?
Mhm.
Oh, exciting. Okay. Well, I know you already wrote Hear Me Roar, right?
I did. It's that I feel like is more like a little guidebook
Okay.
for college aged women.
Okay.
Um, just to help boost their confidence and awareness, and a little bit of self-defense in there. But this book is more for my peer group. Um, I wrote
Okay.
it, well, I'm writing it. So
Exciting.
it's not quite finished yet, but basically it walks women through a journey from white belt to black belt. Um, I use martial arts as a metaphor, but it's really relatable towards anybody. There's different themes throughout each chapter and lots of different exercises. It's very interactive. So it'll
Hmm.
be fun,
Cool.
like to do with your friends or in book groups or stuff like that.
Wow, very cool. You wear different hats. You're like a chameleon a little bit. Yeah.
Yes.
That's so
Same as
awesome.
you too, I feel like.
Yeah, you have to, right? You have to. That's just the women are dynamic, we've got the survival instinct. We really do.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I I was noticing on some of the clips of the morning shows and
Hmm.
TV spots you were on that so many of the hosts are like really silly and they're really, really self-conscious. Now, I know they're trying to be funny, but what do you think that's all about?
That's a really interesting observation. No one else has ever said that before, and I've felt it, obviously. Um, there's one clip that I won't mention names, but she was a housewife of New York. And the way she treated me in that segment, I have never been treated so poorly by a host. It was almost like I was more embarrassed for her in front of the live audience. But as I was telling her, you know, she was asking, what's the story? Why do I teach self-defense? So kind of told her how I was grabbed on the street one night in New York and blah, blah, blah. And she was like, really? Well, I'm from New York and that's never happened to me, like discrediting almost my story. So thankfully I just got right back into myself instead of feeling like knocked down and just like losing my train of thought. I just snapped back well, actually in the US, 1 in 5 women in the US will be the victim of a sexual assault. Those are the statistics. It doesn't matter what your personal experience is.
Right.
And all of a sudden she's like, oh, right. Well, I was in Miami someone pointed a gun to my head. And I'm like, oh, okay. So that something did happen to you. And then at the end, we did this segment with a guy that she cut, like jokes that she crushed on, and made the whole self-defense skit a joke.
Right.
And I was just like, wow, what a disservice we just did to all the women out there watching, and all the women, especially that have been survivors of any kind of assault or sexual assault, to make it kind of a joke. Right. And I was so disappointed. So in that case, I don't know what that is. I really don't know what that is. If it's ignorance or yeah.
Well, it's like, that's the whole problem. The whole problem is women are not standing in their power, and they're not taking their own strength seriously. Like, that's an embodiment of what you're trying to address.
Yeah.
So, okay. Yeah.
It was weird. Yeah. It was definitely weird. I always want people to feel like a badass. Like, that's just the word that for me that embodies all the feelings: confidence, fierce self-expression, not fearlessness. I don't like that word per se. It's used a lot, but to me, having courage is feeling fear and acting anyway, right? I don't think any of us never feel fear. You'd have to be a robot. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, I'm fearful all the time, but then I move through it, right? That's the part that's really tricky and challenging and admirable. So I want people to feel empowered. Really, the one line that always comes to me is, I want you to know that you have all the power you need is within you right now, right? It's all in there. And then we just have to learn how to tap into it.
Yeah. I just have to read this. This is what you wrote on your website. And I just love the way you put this. She warrior. So it's defined as one who is on a lifelong quest to overcome life's most challenging obstacles, and through the process becomes mentally, physically, and spiritually stronger. A she warrior perseveres, overcomes, and illuminates others along her journey. I just love that. That's just incredible.
Huh? I can't believe you found that. That's amazing.
It's on your website.
I know. It's like you have to click and...
And I was going to ask you about books that inspire you, but you said the Gift of Fear. Is that what it's called?
I recommend that highly to everybody listening. Books that I've read, it's so funny because in my 20s and even early 30s, and a lot of the books that inspired me were actually from men, which today I would say that I do my best to find both female and male authors. But Tony Robbins, Wayne Dyer, I loved Wayne Dyer so much, and I read every book he ever wrote.
Oh, okay.
And just there's so many amazing spiritual teachers. As far as women authors, I love Elizabeth Gilbert. What was that book? Something Magic.
Pray Love.
Big Magic.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic book. Yeah. And I did read Untamed recently by Glennon Doyle, which was pretty cool.
Okay, I've heard of that one. Oh, cool. Ever since I had a child, or I guess since I was first pregnant, I noticed that I think I have a mother with her child exudes this bubble of love and protection. And I think, well, that, like, I wonder how many times like a mother gets like harassed or attacked like while they have their kids with them, because almost like they have a force field around them. And so I wanted to bring that up to you. I don't know if you've ever thought about that, but like
Mm.
or whether you would teach or train a mom to protect herself while she has her kids. But I've always felt like so much safer even when I had a baby with me, which was so interesting because you almost think you're going to feel more vulnerable with a
Right.
baby. But it's
Right.
like my heart is just like doing this, and it's like
Right.
a protective circle of energy around me or something like that. And I just wanted to tell you that. I've never even told anybody that. It's just some phenomena I just find so interesting.
Well, that's very cool. And I'm just picturing it because I'm not a mom. So, but I would imagine that that's coming from you and not that other people, like predators don't attack moms. No, that's not the case. It's just that you're exuding awareness, right? So you're highly alert and aware and in protection mode. Your baby, you're tiger, you're a tiger, you're a lioness, and you're going to protect your young at all costs. So I think that's probably an innate primal thing that
Yeah.
women have.
Yeah, and it sort of goes along with like, you're attracting what you're vibrating to. Like, so if I'm vibrating love, then I might, sidestep the thugs. I don't know. I don't
Yeah, I
know.
mean, so I can go both ways on that. I've had a comment on one of my YouTube videos where I was doing some safety, talking about safety while running or something like that. And it was this very, I'm just going to say new age type of account that was speaking. And I don't know if it was who the person was, but they're essentially telling me that you're going to track, by me talking about safety and trying to be safe and personal safety and self-defense, that I'm actually attracting danger. And that I want to be really careful with that, because that just feels that,
Yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting idea.
yeah, I'm just not going to agree with it.
Right. Yeah. Delete that. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, but because sometimes you're just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Sometimes there's, some very not well person looking to harm
Right.
people. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like there is that element in the world, and we have to accept that that is.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. That's
Then it's almost like a blame game that we're blaming all these women that are, becoming victims of sexual assault. Now, granted, we all can take some sort of personal responsibility just for our lives, and we don't have to stay in victim mode, and we can, empower ourselves to overcome and persevere. But I don't think, doing the whole blame game works very well.
right. No. Yeah. How have you grown, and how have you sort of as an entrepreneur changed since you started?
I mean, complete 180, but I would say when I first started, just as an entrepreneur, I was more one-on-one, right? Like training one client at a time. Then I was teaching classes. But my goal was always to bring the message to a much larger platform. Social media didn't exist back then, as you can remember. I mean, so I think if I was starting out now, I'm sure my life or business would be different, but
Mhm.
it just felt okay to do one-to-one for a while until
Yeah.
I grew out of it. And then I wanted to then, kind of put on a blazer and get out of my workout clothes and
Yeah.
step
Yeah.
on a stage and, inspire many versus just the one-to-one.
Right. When do you feel like you're most fully yourself? That's one
Mhm.
final question.
Honestly, I mean, completely honestly, I don't, I don't put on like other airs or faces. Like I'm mostly myself.
Yeah.
Maybe to a fault. Like I don't know. It's hard work for me to act like somebody else or to put on airs. Like, and I think that's probably why I never stepped into the corporate world. Now I am in a different way where I could just like put a toe in and come out and put a toe in and come out. But
Yeah.
I'm very much myself, like I said, almost to a fault, because I'll curse and be like, I like to be familiar with people very quickly. So yeah. So when
Yeah,
I'm
you are yourself. You're yourself when you're on the couch, and you're yourself when you're on stage, and that's just that.
that's that.
That's awesome.
And I also feel fear,
Yeah.
all the time too. I just work myself through it.
Yes. Yeah, you're not in denial. Feel the bad as well as the good, and grow from the bad, which I think as a world, we're all doing that right now. We're being faced with a lot of scary little demons. We're being faced with ourselves and a lot of fear, and we're gonna make it through this.
Yes, we
And
will.
so, but let's talk again
Great.
soon. And I just love hearing about all that you do. It's the coolest company ever. I love the niche. I love what you've crafted for yourself, and thank you for making the world a better place.
Thank you, Ellie. Thank you for the platform, and thank you for reaching out to me in the first place. I'm really glad we're connected.
Yes. Well, my pleasure.
Okay. Bye, Ellie.